The night begins without hurry. Beyond the cities and the hum of machines, the world grows quiet again. Somewhere far away, beneath a slow and ancient sky, history turns softly in its sleep. It does not wake with noise or light, only with the sound of wind brushing over stone. Tonight we drift across time. From the wooden taverns of medieval Europe, where warmth was shared more through nearness than through words, to the bright courtyards of Egypt, where a queen's calm gaze met the rising sun. From the terraces of the dragon's backbone, carved carefully by generations of patient hands, to the silent water that hides the shape of an underwater sphinx. Each place breathes with its own rhythm. Each moment holds its own kind of peace. There are no battles here, no triumphs, no endings, only endurance. The steady hands that built, the soft footsteps that walked, the quiet breaths that continued through centuries. As you listen, let the pace of the past slow your own. Let the sound of rain on old roofs, the murmur of distant rivers, and the hush of ancient halls gather around you. This is not a history of power or discovery. It is a history of stillness, a story of how people lived, worked, and rested beneath the same stars we see tonight. So close your eyes. Let time unfold like a long breath. The world will move gently now, and the night will hold you as it has held all who came before. Top of form. The medieval tavern. Inside the tavern. Night settles gently over the narrow streets of a medieval town. The sound of rain is soft and rhythmic, falling on wooden beams that lean toward one another as if for comfort. Each droplet slides down the rough surface and gathers in puddles along the path. The smell of wet hay mixes with smoke drifting from unseen chimneys. Somewhere, a dog shakes the rain from its coat and disappears into the dark. Beyond the mist, a faint light flickers. A doorway, opening slowly, spilling gold across the mud. It is a tavern, small and low, its door swollen from years of weather. Inside, the air is thicker, warmer. The scent of fire and ale mingles with the sweetness of damp wool. The walls lean with age, holding the memory of countless evenings. A hearth glows in the corner, its flames steady but low. Benches crowd around heavy wooden tables, scarred and smooth from the press of elbows and mugs. Every table seems to hold a story, though none are eager to be told. This is not a place for excitement or noise. It is a place made for waiting, for breathing, for the long passing of hours. The tavern keeper moves quietly, his steps slow and measured. He wipes the edge of a cup, turns a piece of bread over the coals, and listens without appearing to listen. Behind him, a pot of stew thickens slowly. Barley onion, a bit of salted meat, and something unspoken. The fire hums, patient as the night outside. There is no menu here, only what remains from the day's labor. The bread is rough and hard but warm. The cheese is sharp, crumbly, touched by the taste of smoke. The ale is dark and heavy like the room itself, a quiet companion rather than a drink. It is not a feast, but a kind of comfort born from simplicity. The door opens now and then, letting in a sigh of rain and a traveler or two. Each one steps carefully over the threshold, pausing as their eyes adjust to the dim light. Farmers, messengers, soldiers, and merchants all share the same fatigue, the same silent gratitude for warmth. They shake the water from their cloaks and settle at the nearest empty bench. No greetings are needed. The understanding between them is wordless, shaped by the language of weariness. They sit close, shoulders touching, hands wrapped around mugs that steam faintly in the glow of the fire. Conversation flows in murmurs, never rising above the crackle of wood. A cough, a sigh, a short laugh. These are the sounds of life continuing, soft and unhurried. Outside, the rain deepens. The wind brushes against the walls like an old friend. Inside, the fire pops softly, sending small sparks into the air. The tavern breathes with its guests, the rhythm of the place matching the rhythm of the night. Now and then, the keeper glances toward the window, but there is nothing to see beyond it. Only the reflection of the firelight and the steady fall of rain on glass. Sometimes there is music, a string instrument, rough but tender, played by tired hands. A drum made from skin and hope, its pulse quiet but steady. No one announces the music, it simply begins as if the night itself wished for a song. The melody drifts through the room, finds the corners, rises with the smoke, and disappears into the ceiling beams. People do not clap or sing along, they simply listen. The tune is familiar, older than memory, carrying with it the comfort of repetition. Laughter comes and goes like the wind through cracks in the door. It never lingers long, but it always returns. Children sleep near the hearth, curled under wool blankets. Their small breaths move with the rhythm of the fire. A cat stirs beside them, stretches once, then settles again. Someone in the corner hums without realizing. The night drifts on, layer by layer, until time itself feels slower. No one here speaks of tomorrow. The tavern exists outside the need for plans. The world beyond its walls can wait. Inside, there is only the steady cycle of warmth and quiet. The clatter of mugs grows rarer, the voices drop lower. The keeper moves again, collecting empty plates, refilling mugs halfway. He does not hurry, there is no reason to. The hours deepen. Rain continues its patient descent, tapping the roof with the soft persistence of memory. In this moment, everything necessary already exists: fire, bread, company, silence. The rest belongs to the storm outside. At times, the light catches in the ale, turning it amber. A shadow crosses the wall, someone leaving, another entering. The rhythm never breaks, it simply bends, then returns to stillness. This small tavern is more than shelter. It is a pause in the endless motion of the world. Here, people are neither rich nor poor, noble nor forgotten. They are only present, breathing, warming, enduring. Outside, the road waits under the rain, but for now, the road does not matter. Music fades into the sound of the wind. The last laugh dissolves into the smell of wood smoke. The keeper lifts his lantern, checking each corner, each face resting in the dim glow. He knows this scene will repeat tomorrow, and the next day, and long after. There is comfort in that certainty, in the idea that something so small can remain unchanged. And as the night deepens further, the tavern seems to breathe slower still, its walls settling like tired shoulders, its fire sighing like an old friend at peace. Outside, the rain continues its song. Steady, distant, eternal. Bottom of form night's end and morning's calm. No one hurries. The night outside, thickens like ink, pressing softly against the tavern walls. Beyond them, the world disappears into rain and fog, leaving only this small room of warmth and quiet. The fire has burned low, its last coals glowing under a thin layer of ash. The air is rich with the scent of wood, smoke, and beer, a kind of perfume born from time and use. The floor is scattered with straw, uneven beneath tired feet. A few chairs have been pushed aside, mugs rest half empty where hands once held them. Children sleep near the fire, their faces turned toward the light. Their dreams are simple: warmth, bread, the comfort of familiar voices. Somewhere behind the wall an animal stirs and exhales, a sound of peace more than movement. The tavern breathes like a living thing, its rhythm steady and low. Nothing grand happens here. No stories are finished, no plans begin. It is enough simply to be inside, to wait out the rain, to exist among others who are also waiting. When the voices fade, the keeper begins his slow ritual of closing. He moves through the room with a quiet care born from repetition. One by one, the lamps are dimmed, the light folds back into itself, leaving behind pools of shadow. He wipes the tables with a damp cloth, brushes away crumbs, straightens a bench. The sound of his work is gentle, the soft scrape of wood, the low sigh of breath. Shadows drift across the floor like slow waves. People find places to rest, a bench, a corner, a barrel leaned against the wall. Cloaks become blankets, arms become pillows. The last murmurs of conversation linger, fading gradually, like the sea retreating from the shore. Outside, the wind has quieted. The rain, too, grows softer, a whisper rather than a fall. In the silence that follows, the tavern feels suspended in time. The night could last forever and no one would notice. The only motion left is the slow, even breathing of those who sleep. Each breath seems to echo faintly, carrying the rhythm of centuries. It is the same rhythm that has filled rooms like this for hundreds of years. The rhythm of endurance of lives lived one quiet evening at a time. Morning comes not with haste, but with inevitability. It does not break, it seeps in, pale and cold. The first light touches the window, faint as a sigh. Smoke still hangs in the air, turning gold in the new sun. The fire has died to a faint glow. The keeper wakes first. He stirs the coals with the tip of a poker, adds a few small sticks, and waits for the flame to return. The room brightens slowly. The smell of fresh bread drifts in from somewhere unseen. The baker down the road, already at work. The scrape of chairs begins again. A bucket tips, a broom moves, a door opens to the morning air. The guests rise, stiff and quiet. They stretch their arms, gather their cloaks, and say few words. The tavern has no need for farewells. Its warmth is enough of a goodbye. Outside, puddles reflect the sky's pale color. The road glistens. Some head toward fields, others toward markets or towns far away. Each leaves behind a little of their warmth, their breath, their quiet presence. And the tavern absorbs it all, ready to begin again when the sun fades once more. By the time the door opens fully, the world has already started its daily rhythm. A cart rattles down the street. A rooster calls from a yard. Somewhere, a church bell tolls, marking another ordinary day. Yet inside this small space of wood and smoke, time feels different, slower, older, more forgiving. The same bread, the same mugs, the same soft talk will return tonight. Nothing changes, and that is its comfort. In this way, the tavern lives between dusk and dawn, never fully asleep, never fully awake. It holds the echoes of every voice, every footstep, every sigh that has passed through its door. The sound of rain on the roof remains even after the clouds have gone. The scent of smoke lingers long after the fire has cooled. Everything fades, but nothing truly leaves. When the last guest steps outside, the keeper pauses at the doorway. He looks into the street, the faint glimmer of water, the slow rise of light. He closes the door gently, the wood creaking in familiar protest. For a moment, silence reigns once more. Then the tavern exhales, ready to rest until the next night returns. No glory, no drama, only the rhythm of endurance. This is what life has always been here. The quiet repetition of need and comfort, effort and rest. Bread baked, ale poured, stories untold but shared in fragments. It is enough. It has always been enough. In this small place of smoke and wood, the medieval night finds peace. The air holds the warmth of human presence, and the floor carries the faint memory of footsteps already forgotten. What is shared here? The simple nearness of others, the patience of the body, the gentleness of surviving, is all that life requires. The world beyond these walls may rise and fall, but here, inside the tavern, time stands still. It breathes with the same slow grace as the people who fill it. And when the night returns, as it always does, it will find everything waiting just as it left it. A hearth, a table, a few tired souls, and a peace that asks for nothing more than warmth. Top of form, Nefertiti. The morning of stone. Far from the taverns of Europe, morning arrives in silence. The horizon glows pale, and the desert exhales its long, slow breath. The air is cool before the heat, touched with the scent of dust and distance. Light stretches over the dunes and settles against the stone. Walls, pillars, and the faint outlines of a city that once shimmered in gold. Each surface glows softly, not with brilliance, but with memory. Here, time does not move forward. It lingers. Among these quiet walls, a woman once walked. Nefertiti, whose name means the beautiful one has come. Her world was built on stillness and symmetry, a place where even movement had rhythm, where every gesture carried the grace of intention. Artists studied her face for years, learning the language of calm. They carved her likeness from stone, not to capture power, but balance. The lines were smooth, the gaze direct. Her neck rose like the stem of a lotus, and her eyes, carved wide and patient, looked neither forward nor back. In that gaze lived something enduring, not pride, but composure. She moved through courtyards where sunlight touched the water. Columns cast long shadows, and the sound of footsteps echoed against polished stone. The air shimmered with quiet perfumes, myrrh, oil, and the faint sweetness of blue lotus. Every detail was arranged, the tilt of a vase, the path of a breeze, the pattern of light on a wall. Life unfolded slowly, bound by order and rhythm. It was not the stillness of silence, but the stillness of harmony. In the mornings, attendants carried offerings of fruit and bread to the altars of the sun. Scribes knelt with their brushes, drawing the story of each day before it was lived. Artisans ground pigments from minerals, ochre, malachite, lapis lazuli, and brushed them onto plaster walls in strokes of patience. They painted the world as it was meant to be, serene, balanced, whole. Nefertiti watched, her presence both muse and mirror. In her composure, others found their measure. The city around her was new then. Clean lines, open courtyards, built not for war but for light. Pools reflected the sky so perfectly that one could not tell where water ended and heaven began. Palms swayed in ordered rows. The desert waited at the edges like an ocean held in pause. Servants moved in patterns rehearsed and remembered, their pace matching the slow turning of the sun. No one hurried, even the birds seemed to glide rather than fly. For Nefertiti, each morning was a ritual of quiet beginnings. The soft touch of linen, the hum of preparation, the steady rhythm of footsteps on stone. In her chambers, light filtered through carved screens, scattering gold across the floor. She would stand before polished copper mirrors, her image clear but gentle, like a reflection on water. Her attendants would arrange her headdress, blue, slender, crowned with a band of gold. The fabric draped, the jewels caught the light, but her expression never changed. It was not indifference, but peace. Outside, musicians played softly, the notes of flutes rising like morning mist. Voices murmured verses that floated above the still air. Even the sound of work, grinding grain, drawing water, folding cloth, seemed part of the same music. The city moved as one organism, each breath, each motion, belonging to the rhythm of the sun. In this world, time was circular, not linear. Each dawn was both beginning and return. The same rituals, the same gestures, the same care, all meant to hold life within the boundaries of balance. And within that circle, Nefertiti became more than a queen. She became an idea, the embodiment of grace, of serenity carved into form. The artisans who shaped her understood this. They did not work quickly. Each stroke of the chisel was a kind of devotion. They carved in silence, pausing often, letting the light guide their hands. When they looked upon the finished sculpture, they did not see a woman. They saw calm itself, given shape and stillness. In the quiet of that city, beauty was not noise or ornament. It was restraint, the meeting point between strength and softness. Walls did not rise high to impress, they opened wide to invite light. Voices did not shout, they resonated softly, carrying the sound of understanding rather than command. Nefertiti's presence echoed that same calm. She ruled not by decree but by example, the serenity of a still surface hiding depth below. As the morning advanced, shadows grew shorter, and the light deepened into gold. Work continued in silence, broken only by the rhythm of hands and the murmur of wind. The courtyards shimmered. The pools became mirrors of the sky, and for a moment the whole world seemed suspended, a living painting of balance and breath. Far away, beyond the stone walls and measured gardens, the desert waited in its endless patience. It had watched cities rise and fall, kings remembered and forgotten, but here, within this brief hour of light, everything felt eternal. The stone, the sky, the reflection of Nefertiti's face, all parts of one still morning that never seemed to end. The sun climbed higher, and the day began its quiet work. Nothing hurried, nothing broke. Only light continued its slow movement across the world of stone. And somewhere within that glow, a woman's likeness endured. Not alive, yet not gone, held forever in the moment between breath and silence. The quiet kingdom. Beside her, a king ruled a city unlike any other. It was not loud with conquest or restless with ambition. It breathed instead with the calm of order, a rhythm of light and shadow, of mornings that rose the same way each day. Together they shaped a world built on harmony, a place where balance was not an idea, but a daily act. They spoke often of the sun. Its light was not worshipped, but observed, a teacher that moved without words, steady and patient. In their world, everything returned to that light. The walls, the gardens, the reflections in the pools, all turned their faces toward it, as if to remember what warmth meant. Within the palace, silence was not emptiness. It was the language of thought, of measured motion. Courtiers moved with care, their steps echoing softly through long halls of stone. The sound of sandals brushed the floor like the sweep of a calm tide. Each movement carried intention. Even the turning of a scroll or the placing of a cup seemed to follow a deeper rhythm, a music beneath the stillness. The king's hands were never idle. He wrote often. Words about the sky, about order, about the invisible link between the earth and the breath of people. His writings were not commands, they were reflections, pages of thought carved into time. He spoke of the sun as the center of all things, the quiet pulse that joined heaven and soil, ruler and commoner, life and afterlife. His ideas shaped the way people built and lived, not through decree, but through example. Beside him, Nefertiti's presence brought balance. Her calm completed the thought he began. She stood beside him in every relief, every carved wall, not behind, not beneath, but equal. In her stillness there was gravity, a grace that did not demand to be seen but could not be ignored. Together they formed a single image, two figures standing in sunlight, hands lifted not in power, but in acknowledgement. They were part of the same design, the rhythm between light and form, between motion and rest. Around them, the city thrived quietly. The people rose with the dawn and slept with the stars. The market stirred, the artisans worked, and the air filled with the faint murmur of daily life. The city's heart was its stillness, a place where work itself was prayer, where beauty was born not from excess but from care. Scribes sat cross-legged on reed mats, their ink dark and deliberate. They recorded the hours, the offerings, the harvests. They noted the rising of the river, the blooming of the fields, and the simple, steady rhythm of existence. Builders worked beneath the same light. They carved walls and lifted columns from earth and will. Each stone was placed with precision, aligned to the sun's path. Centuries later, that same light would still find them, sliding across the carvings, touching the outlines of figures that once breathed. The hands that shaped those walls were long gone, but their care remained visible in every surface. The lines they drew, straight, sure, and kind, were a kind of permanence that words could not reach. Artists returned to Nefertiti's image again and again, not to glorify her, but to preserve her calm. They traced the curve of her face until it became timeless. Each repetition was an act of devotion, a way of keeping stillness alive in a world that would one day move too fast. They worked in silence, their tools clicking softly against stone. In that repetition, there was peace. Then one season, her name stopped appearing. No one knows why. The scrolls fell quiet, the carvings ceased. Perhaps it was the passing of time, perhaps the turning of favor, perhaps simply the fading of a moment. The city continued its daily rhythm, but the walls spoke less, the courtyards remained bright, the gardens bloomed, the river flowed as always, yet something in the air changed. What had once been a dialogue between rulers and sun became a monologue of stone. Time drifted gently over the city, the way wind moves across dunes. Soft, patient, unending. Sand gathered in corners, erasing footsteps, softening lines. The paint on the walls paled to the color of dust. The statues stood where they always had, their eyes unblinking, their lips closed. Even in silence, they held their meaning. Nefertiti's likeness remained, the same poised neck, the same quiet gaze. But her name, her sound, was gone. What survived was not her story, but her stillness. It was as if the world chose to remember her not in voice, but in presence. The calm she embodied became her afterlife, an eternal moment of balance carved into history. The wind continued its long labor, carrying sand from one century to the next. At dawn, the desert light would still return, gliding over the same walls, warming the same stone faces. The city no longer spoke, but it did not vanish. It breathed through the silence, each grain of sand holding the echo of what once was. In that silence, there was no tragedy, no end, only transformation. What had been a voice became a form. What had been a rain became reflection. The beauty that once moved now rested in stillness, unchanged, unbroken. Nefertiti's final kingdom was not of gold or power, but of quiet, a realm where time itself bowed to grace. And even now, when the sun rises over the pale stone of her forgotten city, it still pauses, as if remembering the calm she left behind. Top of form, bottom of form, the shape of stillness. What remains now is not a kingdom nor a history of power. What remains is a face, calm, measured, and perfectly still. The lines are clean, the surface unbroken. A smooth brow, a quiet mouth, a neck that seems to listen. She does not speak, yet she is never silent. Her expression belongs to no single moment. It exists outside of time, untouched by change. In that likeness there is no command, no demand. There is no ambition, no urgency, only balance, a kind of peace captured in form. The eyes are steady but soft, open but unknowable. They hold the faint reflection of light as though they still remember the mornings beside the river. Even now, across the centuries, that same light finds her cheek, moves along the curve of her jaw, and rests quietly in the hollows of her gaze. She endures not because of power, but because of grace. Grace is slower than strength. It moves through time like water, patient and unstoppable. It does not fight for survival, it simply continues. And in that continuation lies her immortality. The hands that carved her have long turned to dust. The language that praised her has faded from memory, yet her presence remains. She is not a symbol of what was lost, but of what never needed to end. The years passed and became centuries. Stone cities softened back into earth. Wind filled the courtyards where laughter once echoed. The paint that once colored her face faded to the shade of sand, and still she waited, silent and complete. The world around her changed. The sun rose over new rulers, new empires, new names. But none could alter the stillness she carried. It was not the stillness of emptiness, but of endurance, the kind that expects nothing, yet remains. When she was found again, she returned to light without surprise. The air around her was filled with the hush of recognition. People looked, but she did not meet their gaze. She had seen too much time to notice being seen. Her calm belonged to the space between thought and breath, the same calm that lives in rivers at dawn, in the pause between one heartbeat and the next. In the halls of museums, she stands behind glass. Visitors pass before her, slow and quiet, their reflections blending with hers. Children look up and fall silent, as if the air itself has asked them to listen. Even in the noise of the modern world, something about her face restores stillness. Time slows in her presence, like water held briefly in a cupped hand. No one speaks loudly here. Even whispers sound like reverence. The light above her shifts gently through the hours, changing her without changing her. Morning makes her golden. Evening turns her pale. Each shadow moves across her cheek as if remembering the sun she once knew. She is not imprisoned by time. She guides it. Every visitor becomes, for a moment, part of her rhythm. They stand, they breathe, they feel the quiet weight of centuries settle softly around them. Her story, if it can still be called a story, is not about what ended. It is about what remained, the steady form of patience, the harmony between silence and life, a moment caught perfectly between breath and stillness. There is no triumph here, no mourning, only the calm that comes when everything unnecessary has been stripped away. She is the shape of balance itself, human, but also eternal. In her, beauty was never decoration. It was proportion, clarity, poise, a reflection of the order the world once sought to live by. That same order still whispers through her features, the lift of her chin, the line of her shoulders, the exact distance between stillness and movement. To stand before her is to feel that balance quietly rearrange the heart. It is to understand that grace does not vanish. It changes form. Around her, the air feels different. The sound of footsteps softens. The world seems to lower its voice. For a moment, time itself seems to listen. It pauses, folds its wings, and waits. In that pause, she exists, neither past nor present, but the breath that connects both. She has survived not through memory, but through form. Her body of stone is also a body of patience, a lesson carved in light and silence. Where words fail, her stillness speaks. It reminds us that endurance need not be loud, and that beauty, when unshaken, becomes truth. The centuries move on, but she remains the same, calm, complete, eternal. Her image belongs not to the desert or the museum, but to the quiet part of every observer who pauses long enough to see. She is not waiting to be understood. She has already been understood by the sunlight that still touches her face, by the wind that still drifts across her name, by the silence that will outlast them both. And so she endures, and not as a queen, nor as a memory, but as a moment perfectly preserved, a single held breath between the world as it was and the world as it continues to be. Top of form. The dragon's backbone. The mountain and the mist. Mist drifts slowly through the mountains of southern China, folding the valleys in layers of white. The air is cool, carrying the faint scent of wet earth and pine. As the morning light spreads, it touches the slopes gently, revealing terraces that climb the mountains like steps to the sky. They shine faintly in the mist, their curves soft as brushstrokes on a scroll. This is Longji, the dragon's backbone. Each terrace holds the memory of patience. Long ago, before roads or machines, hands alone shaped these hills. Stone by stone, earth by earth, the people carved the mountains into quiet order. They did not rush, for time was part of the work. The rhythm of labor followed the rhythm of the rain. When the soil was heavy with water, they rested. When the clouds lifted, they began again. The land responded slowly, bending itself to human care without breaking its form. Even now, the terraces flow with the same soft grace, an ancient dialogue between people and the mountain. From a distance, the hills seem alive, their lines rising and falling like a sleeping dragon's back. At dawn, when the mist curls low, the fields gleam silver beneath the first light. Every curve catches a different reflection. Some gold, some pale blue, some deep green. It is as if the sky itself has been caught and held in water. When the sun rises fully, the terraces shimmer like 1,000 mirrors breathing in unison. Villages rest quietly among the folds of the land. Wooden houses stand on tall stilts, their beams darkened by rain and years. Roofs slope steeply to carry away the storms that visit each season. Smoke rises from hearths in slow spirals, blending with the mist until both become the same cloud. Roosters call, dogs stir, and somewhere a bamboo door slides open. The morning begins not with hurry, but with rhythm. Here, life does not measure itself by clocks. It moves with the sun, with the falling of rain, with the soft murmur of wind through the terraces. Paths of packed earth wind between the houses and fields. They are narrow, damp, alive with footprints. Farmers walk these paths barefoot, their baskets balanced easily across their shoulders. Each step is careful, for the ridges are steep and the earth slippery with dew. Their feet know the mountain the way hands know prayer. Every motion, lifting, planting, turning, has been repeated so many times that it no longer feels like work, but like breathing. Water is everywhere. It flows from springs higher up the slopes, running through small bamboo channels, spilling gently from terrace to terrace. The farmers listen for it, for water is their companion, the voice that guides the day. Sometimes it hums softly, sometimes it sings when it meets a stone. At dusk, when the hills grow dark, that sound is what remains, the heartbeat of the land. Each terrace reflects the sky differently. When clouds pass overhead, the fields darken and brighten, changing color, as if they too were breathing. In spring, when the water is clear and new, the mountains appear to float on air. In summer, green rice waves under the wind, rippling like silk. In autumn, the fields turn gold, and the air fills with the scent of harvest. Then comes winter. The terraces fold into stillness, their surfaces dusted with frost. Even asleep, the land remains alive. Within the houses, life continues in soft cycles. Fires burn low, rice steams in clay pots, and voices rise and fall like the movement of wind. Children carry kindling, elders weave baskets near the hearth. The walls are thin, so every sound, laughter, coughing, a lullaby, travels gently from one home to another. The village breathes together, each house a lung, each light a pulse. The people who live here do not speak of endurance, they simply live it. Their days are made of repetition, the same paths, the same water, the same sky, and yet no two mornings ever look alike. They read the small changes, the tilt of a cloud, the smell of the wind, the first shimmer of frost on the field. These are their clocks, their calendars, their way of knowing where they are in the year. When evening arrives, the mist thickens again, closing the mountains like a curtain. The terraces turn silver once more. Lanterns flicker in the windows, their reflections trembling across the water. The air cools, the frogs begin to sing. The fields, the houses, the sky, all drift toward rest. No border separates one from the other. It is all part of the same slow breath. Here, time is not a line but a circle. What was done yesterday will be done again tomorrow, and again after that, each time slightly different, each time equally necessary. There is no race, no finish, no triumph. Only the quiet persistence of life carving meaning from repetition. The dragon's backbone does not roar or rise in fire. It moves in silence. Its scales are terraces, its breath the mist. And when the night finally descends, the mountain disappears into shadow, but the rhythm continues, steady, eternal, as patient as the people who shaped it. Top of form. Bottom of form. Top of form, the seasons of the fields. In spring, the mountain begins to breathe again. Mist lifts slowly from the valleys, revealing terraces filled with new water, soft, silver, and still. The light glides across their surfaces, turning each field into a quiet mirror of the sky. The air smells of wet soil and new beginnings. Along the narrow ridges, farmers walk barefoot, their feet sinking slightly into the cool earth. They move in lines that curve with the land, balancing baskets heavy with green seedlings. Their shadows ripple over the water, blending with the reflections of clouds. Every motion is careful, practiced, unhurried. It is not only work, it is rhythm, a daily return to the slow music of the world. The planting begins. Hands press the seedlings gently into the mud, each one a small promise of nourishment. No one rushes, they move in quiet harmony, each person knowing their place in the pattern. From the ridges above, it looks like choreography, a slow dance between people and land, between gesture and gravity. The fields glisten as the day warms. Water flows from one terrace to another, linking every plot in a network of care. The mountain becomes a single, breathing body. By afternoon, the farmers pause to rest. Sitting in the shade of bamboo groves, sharing tea, stories, and silence. The work resumes as the light fades, their movements now golden in the soft dusk. When the sun disappears behind the peaks, the terraces hold its glow, a long, lingering reflection that hums with life. Summer arrives quietly. The air grows thick and warm, rain falls in short, steady bursts, softening the soil, deepening the green. The fields rise into waves of color, each terrace a band of living jade. The rice sways with the wind, a slow undulation that seems to breathe. From a distance, the hills look alive, their slopes rippling like water. The sound of frogs and insects fills the air, weaving a gentle chorus that carries through the night. Lanterns flicker in the houses, their light moving like fireflies along the hillsides. Children chase the glow with laughter, their footsteps echoing faintly through the mist. In the mornings, the farmers walk the ridges again, checking the water, tending the growth. Their tools are simple. Wooden plows, woven baskets, hands hardened but graceful. They work not against the land, but with it, matching its tempo. The mountain gives what is asked of it, no more, no less. Each act, clearing, pruning, guiding the flow, is part of an old conversation. There is no hurry, there never has been. Patience is not a choice here. It is the only way. The fields thrive under that patience. Every blade of rice bends lightly toward the light, like gratitude made visible. By late summer, the colors deepen. The air hums with heat. Clouds gather above the peaks and thunder rolls through the valleys like slow drums. When the rain comes, it arrives with power. Sheets of silver falling from the sky, striking the water with 1,000 small ripples. The terraces shimmer, turning the mountain into a mosaic of movement. Then the rain stops and the mist returns, softening the edges of everything. It is as if the world exhales and all becomes still again. Autumn follows with quiet grace. The air cools, the days shorten. The rice turns from green to gold, its scent rich and sweet in the wind. Every slope gleams beneath the low sun. The people prepare for harvest. Sickles flash briefly in the light, cutting gently through the stalks. The sound is soft, a rhythm of rustling, of hands gathering, of breath in unison. Bundles of rice are tied and carried down the ridges, their weight balanced against the body's memory of motion. Voices call across the fields, low and rhythmic, as if the work itself were a form of song. The harvest days pass slowly, marked by sweat, laughter, and the smell of grain. When evening comes, the fields are covered in stubble, and the terraces glow like embers under the fading sky. At night, smoke rises again, fires lit to cook the evening meal, to warm the hands that worked since dawn. Families gather on the porches, their faces lit by firelight and quiet contentment. The hills are silent except for the murmur of insect and the crackle of flame. The mountain, for a while, seems to rest with them. Winter arrives not as an end, but as a pause. The terraces, once bright with life, turn pale beneath the frost. Water freezes along the edges, forming thin crystals that catch the weak sunlight. The fields no longer reflect the sky. They hold the silence of the season instead. Smoke rises in slow threads from the houses, and the sound of axes splits the cold air. Life moves indoors, where warmth gathers in shared breath and slow stories. The mountain itself seems to sleep. Its slopes are draped in mist and stillness. Yet beneath the surface the cycle continues, unseen, unbroken. The soil rests, the water seeps, the roots wait. The people, too, wait. They mend tools, repair roofs, and prepare seeds for the coming thaw. Patience becomes the shape of every day. Time feels longer here, as if the mountain stretches it to fit its own rhythm. There is no loneliness in this waiting. It is simply part of the pattern. Every task, tilling, planting, tending, harvesting, is deliberate, calm, complete. Each season carries the same motions, but each motion means something new. A bend of the knee, a lift of the hand, a breath taken before the next stroke of the hoe, all belong to the same continuity. It is work, yes, but also meditation. The people who labor here do not separate the two. Work is how they listen, labor is how they speak back to the land. The rhythm has no beginning and no end. Spring becomes summer, summer folds into autumn, autumn rests in winter, and winter leans once more into spring. The terraces change, yet never change. The mountains breathe, the water flows, and life returns again and again, each time quieter, each time wiser. It is not a story of progress, but of balance, a slow conversation between people and earth, kept alive by care. When the year completes itself, the first rains return, and the cycle begins again. Mist gathers in the valleys, and the farmers step once more into the water. Their reflections ripple outward, meeting the reflections of their ancestors. In that meeting, the seasons join hands, the fields, the people, and the sky move together. One continuous motion, endless and kind. The sleeping dragon. At dusk, the light softens over the dragon's backbone. The last breath of the sun slips behind the peaks and the terraces begin to glow. Each curve of water catches the fading gold, holding it for a few more heartbeats before surrendering to the dark. The air cools, carrying the faint scent of wet earth and smoke. Lanterns begin to flicker in the wooden houses scattered across the slopes. Their light is small but certain, like stars fallen gently to the ground. Children's laughter drifts through the air, then fades into the slow song of evening, a chorus of frogs, crickets, and wind. Dogs bark once, then settle. Somewhere, a bamboo door closes with a soft creak. The day exhales and the mountain folds itself into rest. The sound of the fields quiets, leaving only the steady trickle of water running through the terraces. That sound, patient, unending, is the heartbeat of Long G. The terraces glow faintly under the moon, silver ripples tracing the spine of the hills. From afar, they resemble scales, the back of a dragon resting beneath the stars. It moves only through light and shadow, through the shimmer of mist and reflection. Each curve of the land feels alive, breathing slowly beneath the sky. The farmers say the dragon never sleeps completely. Even when the night is still, its breath continues. In the water, in the wind, in the quiet endurance of the soil. Inside the houses, lamps burn low. The walls are made of wood darkened by generations of smoke and rain. Voices murmur softly, stories told, rice shared, tea poured. Elders sit near the hearth, their hands resting on the worn table, their eyes following the flicker of flame. Outside, the fields reflect the same light, as though the house and the mountain are breathing together. Here, there is no border between home and land. The people live within the rhythm they have made. Time, too, feels different here. It does not rush forward, it circles gently. There are no clocks to command it, only rain, harvest, and growth. Morning follows night, seasons follow each other in perfect balance. The villagers rise when the sky begins to pale, and rest when the last color fades from the terraces. They do not count the days, they live them, each one a single note in the same long song. When treated with care, the hills answer with abundance. The rice grows tall and golden, its grains full and heavy. The earth, worked with patience, gives freely. There is no need to demand from it, only to listen. The farmers understand this language. They know when to plant and when to wait, when to touch, and when to leave the soil alone. Their wisdom is not written in books, but in gestures, in how the hand releases the seed, how the foot presses the earth, how the eyes follow the movement of clouds. Each field is both work and inheritance. The terraces were carved by their ancestors, kept alive by those who came after. Every stone that holds the water in place was placed there by someone long gone. The people who farm now stand in the footprints of hundreds of others, their hands moving in the same patterns, their thoughts carried by the same wind. In this way, the mountain remembers. The terraces are its memory, not carved in words, but in shape, in the patient lines of the earth. No monument rises higher than the fields themselves. There are no towers, no palaces, no carved names in stone. The legacy here is simpler. Rice that grows each year, streams that continue to flow, children who learn the rhythm of care. The land is its own monument, rebuilt every season, restored by touch and time. Even when storms pass, when parts of the terraces collapse under heavy rain, the people rebuild them quietly, stone by stone, as they have always done. They do not mourn the damage, they accept it as part of the breathing of the earth. At night, when the moon is high, the terraces shine like rivers made of glass. The hills seem to float, their reflections blending with the stars above. The wind moves softly, rippling the water and stirring the tall grasses. It is easy to believe that something ancient sleeps beneath the surface, a great, slow creature whose dreams shape the land itself. The farmers call it the dragon. They say its back forms the terraces, its breath brings the rain, and its stillness keeps the mountain whole. The dragon is not fierce. It does not roar or guard treasure. Its power lies in stillness, in the quiet strength of patience, in the gentle curve of endurance. Its breath rises with the morning mist and settles again with the night. The people do not fear it, they live with it, within it. To them, the dragon is not legend but landscape, the spirit of the land given shape through generations of work. Its body is made of soil and water, its pulse the sound of flowing streams. It sleeps, but it never leaves. Sometimes during storms, lightning flashes over the terraces and the entire mountain glows for a heartbeat, silver, gold, alive. The people say, that is when the dragon turns in its sleep. Then the rain comes, filling the fields, cooling the air, washing the mountain clean again. The next morning, the world begins anew, as if nothing had changed. But something always does. A stone shifted, a channel deepened, a new curve added to the endless rhythm. Longji remains a landscape of endurance, earth shaped by hands, hands shaped by earth. Neither rules the other. They move together, balanced and inseparable. It is not a story of conquest or progress. It is a long conversation, one that has continued for centuries without the need for words. When the night deepens, the lanterns dim, and silence becomes complete. The terraces disappear into darkness, but the rhythm remains. A faint shimmer, a slow breathing through the mist. The dragon sleeps, its breath passing softly through the fields, through the rice, through the wind that whispers across the ridges. It continues in the patience of the mountain, in the steady lives of those who care for it. And as the first light of dawn returns, the dragon's back shines once more, alive, enduring, a silent miracle carved from time and tenderness. The underwater sphinx beneath the current. Beyond the wide plains where the river bends and the reeds move like whispers, the land begins to dissolve into water. Here, silence gathers differently. It is not the silence of emptiness, but of long patience. The stillness that comes when time forgets to hurry. Near the river's edge, where sand meets shadow, something rests beneath the surface. It has been there for longer than memory, half buried in silt and distance. The current moves gently above it, stroking the shape as though remembering its lines. From above, nothing appears unusual, only ripples, reeds, and the slow gleam of water beneath the sun. But if you look long enough, if you follow the shifting patterns of light, you begin to see something more. A suggestion, a curve, a quiet geometry emerging through the flow. Divers speak of it softly. They descend through the pale blue haze, each breath a small echo in the vast quiet. Beneath them, the water thickens with sand and time. Shapes rise out of the murk, edges worn smooth, angles almost erased. At first it seems natural, the casual arrangement of stones lying where the current placed them. But then the pattern reveals itself. Lines too even, curves too deliberate, forms that belong to intention rather than accident. Some stones rest like folded limbs, their surfaces shaped by both hand and erosion. Others lie in alignment as if once part of a structure that no longer remembers its purpose. Together they form a symmetry, not perfect but persuasive, not proof but presence. The divers hover there, suspended in the quiet, watching the light ripple across the shapes. The water distorts everything slightly, making the past seem alive again, as though the figure might stir, as though the stone might take one more breath. No one speaks loudly here. Even sound feels out of place. The current carries away any hint of voice, reducing everything to motion and rhythm. What exists below cannot be claimed or fully understood. It belongs to the slow dialogue between river and earth. Each grain of sand that drifts past adds another layer of forgetting, another veil of time. Sometimes, in the calm after rain, the water clears enough for sunlight to touch the shapes directly. Then they glow faintly, gold through the green depths, a warmth that feels almost alive. Fish pass through the openings between stones, their scales catching the same light, their movements completing the pattern. Nature and the remnants of the past blend without resistance. It is no longer possible to tell where one ends and the other begins. The figure below, whatever it once was, has entered a new kind of existence. It no longer stands or commands, it rests. It does not rise from the water rises through it. The current drapes it in reeds and silt, softening its edges, turning it into part of the riverbed itself. This is how time heals what it cannot preserve, by allowing form to dissolve into flow. The divers surface again, breaking through the calm with quiet motions. They speak little of what they've seen, only of the feeling it leaves behind. The sense of being close to something that once mattered deeply, and now matters only in stillness. Above them, the sunlight flashes across the rippling surface, then closes again, as if sealing the secret back within its depths. Even from the shore, the river seems to hold its breath, its surface smooth, its voice subdued. Reeds bow slightly in the wind, and the sound of insects fills the pauses where words would be. Everything here participates in a long patience. The river moves, but it does not hurry. The air glows faintly with the reflection of water and sky. A bird drifts low across the surface, its wings leaving no mark. Some say the figure beneath once stood in sunlight, a sentinel, a symbol, a story. But stories fade faster than stone, and even stone forgets when the river calls it home. What remains now is not the meaning, but the feeling, a quiet symmetry between what once was and what now is. There is beauty in this surrender, in the way the past releases itself into the current. If you listen, you can almost hear it, not words, but the slow language of water against stone. It speaks in touches, not sounds. It tells of endurance without resistance, of presence without form, Each wave, each shimmer of light is a reminder that even what disappears still participates in the rhythm of the world. The day leans toward evening. The sun lowers behind the reeds, turning the river into a sheet of bronze. Beneath that calm surface, the shape remains unmoved, silent, patient, as much a part of the water as the current itself. The divers pack their tools, their voices hushed, as if leaving a sacred place. They walk away slowly, their footprints filling with sand. The river closes behind them. It keeps its secret as it always has, quiet, enduring, a mirror for the passage of all things. Top of form, bottom of form. The slow polishing. The current glides slowly over the riverbed, its motion soft and unbroken. It carries with it the weight of centuries, but moves as though time itself has become water, endless, patient, without direction or hurry. Each ripple folds into the next, smoothing everything it touches. The stones beneath, whatever their origin, begin to lose their sharpness, their edges surrendering to the rhythm of flow. Here, history is not erased, it is polished. Grain by grain, moment by moment, the current works without rest. It does not labor, it simply continues. The water presses gently against the surface of the past, tracing every contour, reading every imperfection with liquid fingers. It does not seek to uncover or reveal, only to touch, to know, to transform solid memory into motion. Light enters the water from above, falling in pale ribbons that sway with the current. Each thread of sunlight bends and shivers, breaking apart into smaller strands of gold and green. The deeper the light travels, the softer it becomes. It reaches the resting shapes below, those half-buried remnants of stone and silt, and wraps them in a shimmering haze. Nothing is hidden here, yet nothing is entirely clear. The river keeps everything visible just enough to remind the world that it is still there. Beneath that quiet light, the form lies still. The stone no longer remembers the hands that shaped it. Its surface carries the memory of both craft and erosion, the faint marks of intention and the long patience of water. A carved line may once have been a shoulder, a curve perhaps a face, but now they belong only to the river. The boundary between human and nature has dissolved. There is no separation, only a conversation that continues without words. Sand drifts downward in thin veils, settling softly on every surface. The grains shimmer briefly before they rest, then disappear into the same color as the stone. Over time, layers build upon layers, each one lighter than breath. They rise and fall, moved by small eddies that never stop circling. Nothing here is ever final. Even stillness is in motion. Fish drift through the quiet, moving between open arches, weaving slowly through beams of light. Their scales catch the glow for an instant, then vanish back into shadow. They are part of the same gentle pattern, living fragments within an ancient stillness. They do not disturb the silence, they complete it. Each movement of their fins stirs the sand only slightly, just enough to remind the water that it is alive. Above, reeds bend with the wind. Their reflections tremble on the surface, joining the same rhythm as the current below. Every motion echoes another, the bending of the reed, the drift of the fish, the slow polishing of stone. The world, for a moment, feels perfectly aligned. Everything moves, but nothing changes too quickly. This is how the river endures, not through strength, but through constancy. Silence fills the space between ripples, It is not the silence of emptiness, but the deep quiet that comes from balance. Every sound, the faint hum of insects above, the soft slide of silt below, becomes part of a larger harmony. In this stillness, the river keeps its own language. It speaks in motion, in light, in the endless repetition of flow. There are moments when a cloud passes overhead and the world beneath darkens. The light dims, the colors fade, and the shapes below seem to disappear. But even then, the current continues its slow work, grinding, smoothing, turning roughness into calm. When the sun returns, everything gleams again, as if reborn. This rhythm of concealment and revelation, of shadow and brightness, is the pulse of the river itself. To the water, time is a circle. It does not rush forward. It turns endlessly, each motion folding back into the last. 1,000 years can pass in silence, and the river would still be here, doing what it always has, polishing, softening, remembering through touch. What the wind carves in days, the current shapes in centuries, and though no hand guides it, its precision is perfect. Whether the shape below was built by intention or by the patient accident of nature, the river does not distinguish. It accepts. Stone, shell, silt. All are drawn into the same movement. The water treats each surface the same way without judgment or purpose. It does not decide what is valuable. It does not seek meaning. Its only act is continuation. Through that act, everything is transformed. The stone accepts its place without resistance. It does not mourn what it once was. It does not reach for what it can no longer hold. It lies beneath the current, letting time pass through it. Every breath of water that slides over it carries a piece of the past away, but also gives something back, the softness of patience, the shine of surrender. In that slow exchange, a kind of peace is born. If you were to dive beneath the surface, you would see it, the quiet shimmer where light and form meet. No drama, no discovery, just the still beauty of endurance. Each grain of sand that moves, each glint of light that passes through, adds another chapter to a story that has no beginning or end. It is the story of everything that lasts, not by defiance, but by letting go. The river knows this truth better than anyone. It has seen mountains collapse, forests rise and vanish, civilizations appear and fade. Through it all, it has remained constant, never the same, yet never lost. Its lesson is simple, and its voice eternal. Nothing resists forever, but everything transforms. Even stone learns to flow. As the day fades, the light grows faint. The golden ribbons on the water turn pale, then blue, then vanish into darkness. The current continues unseen, moving in the same patient rhythm. The shape beneath it remains, not unchanged, but at peace. Above, the first stars appear, their reflections trembling in the slow water. The river glides on, polishing the past one grain at a time, turning time itself into stillness. And in that stillness, the world finds its calm again, a quiet equilibrium, endless and kind, top of form, bottom of form. Top of form, the watch of silence. As the light fades, the water begins to darken. It does not rush to night, it arrives gently, layer by layer, as though the world were taking a deep and quiet breath. The surface, once alive with color, now mirrors only the dimming sky. Blue turns to gray, gray to silver, and finally to the soft, polished black of glass. The horizon dissolves. There is no clear line between water and air. Only reflection remains, a trembling veil stretched between the seen and the unseen. The day ends where it began. in movement, in patience. The current continues its slow passage, folding the hours into one another, carrying away what the sun has touched. Evening settles not as an ending, but as a return. The river returning to itself, the earth returning to calm. Everything that stirs now moves at half its pace. The reeds sway in slower rhythm, the wind walks softly through them, and the faint cry of a bird disappears into the fading light. Beneath that calm surface, the form remains. The Sphinx, or what might have once been called that. It lies in the half-light of the riverbed, its features softened by time and silt. The current drapes over it like a robe, a continuous flow of touch that never ends. Each grain of sand that brushes against it is a moment passing, a silent act of remembrance. The stone does not resist, it does not seek recognition or reveal, it simply endures. Perhaps it waits, perhaps it does nothing at all. Waiting, after all, may only be the name we give to stillness when we do not understand its purpose. To the water, there is no waiting, only being. The Sphinx has become part of that language. It does not know time, it only knows presence. Its patience is vast, measured not in centuries, but in the rhythm of the current. The river moves, the seasons turn, and it remains, receiving each motion without protest. Above, dusk gathers into night. Stars begin to tremble on the horizon, their reflections scattering across the surface of the river. Each star appears, fades, and reappears again, shifting with the motion of the current. It is as if the sky itself has entered the water, and the two have agreed to share the same silence. The air cools and the scent of damp earth rises. Somewhere far away, a breeze moves through the reeds and returns as whisper. The world has grown smaller now, contained within shadow, reflection, and breath. The water deepens into shadow. Light still exists, but it is no longer something seen. It is something felt. A soft pressure in the air, a glow that belongs more to memory than to vision. It touches the surface, and the surface answers with movement. A faint ripple, a shiver of silver. The Sphinx below feels none of this, and yet it receives it all. Every flicker of light becomes part of its long vigil. The weight of time presses down like the water itself, but still it holds its place. There is something sacred in this endurance, not sacred as in worship, but sacred as in inevitable, the holiness of what refuses to vanish. All things shaped by hand and time return to quiet. Walls crumble, names fade, but the essence remains, the curve of intention, the trace of touch, the slow yielding of stone to patience. Even the most deliberate creation eventually becomes part of the landscape, and the landscape in turn becomes part of memory. The Sphinx beneath the current is both monument and echo, a thought the earth decided to keep. Above it, the water keeps its steady watch. It moves with the care of something ancient, never hurried, never careless. The current slides over the form, carving it softer, polishing it smoother. It has no goal. It simply continues. And in that continuation lies the essence of endurance, the art of staying through change. Silence expands as the last light fades. It is not an emptiness, but a fullness too complete for sound. The night fills with it. Even the small movements, the sway of reeds, the brush of water against stone, become part of its texture. If you could listen closely enough, you would hear that silence breathing, a sound too large and too gentle to be noticed. The Sphinx does not sleep, but neither is it awake. It exists in the perfect middle, where rest and awareness are the same thing. The centuries above it have blurred, but beneath the current, everything is present. Each layer of silt carries memory. Each fragment of shell or bone adds another verse to the long, wordless song of the earth. This is the slow language of time, spoken not in moments, but in the patient rearrangement of form. When storms come, the water thickens with mud, the current grows faster, heavier, the Sphinx disappears completely, swallowed by silt and turbulence. But the storm always passes, the flood always falls silent again, and when the water clears, the shape remains, untouched in its essence, as if the world above had never changed. The surface may rage, but the deep remembers peace. That too is its nature. The night grows darker, the stars multiply. Their reflections seem endless, stretching across the slow, black water like trails of thought. It is easy, in this hour, to imagine that everything is connected. The stars, the current, the shape below, all moving in the same invisible pattern. The air is cool enough to still the body, and warm enough to keep the world breathing. No sound rises now except the whisper of the current. Even the insects have quieted. The river has become a mirror, and in that mirror the line between past and present disappears. What lies beneath is no longer an artifact. It is part of the living rhythm of the water. The Sphinx is not buried. It is embraced. Not lost, but absorbed. Its meaning has shifted from monument to meditation. It no longer guards, no longer commands. It simply is. That being, that stillness, is its final purpose, to endure not as symbol, but as silence itself. The moon rises slowly above the horizon. Its reflection glides over the surface of the river, touching every ripple, every eddy. The light finds the faintest outline of stone beneath the water, turning it silver for a brief, breath-like moment. Then the glow drifts on and darkness returns. The Sphinx remains unseen once more, yet somehow even more present. It does not need to be visible to exist. It has become the space between things, between motion and stillness, between water and stone, between time and its forgetting. All through the night, the silence keeps its watch, not protective, not possessive, simply attentive. It gathers around the stone like a patient guardian, listening to the soft conversation of current and sand. This is how the earth remembers, not through voice, but through endurance, through repetition, through quiet acceptance. When dawn finally approaches, the first light touches the horizon, and the water begins to pale again. The stars retreat, mist rises from the surface, the world exhales, and the long night folds into morning. The Sphinx remains below, unchanged. It does not awaken, for it never slept. It simply continues as it always has. A shape within the language of the earth, a thought preserved by patience, a witness to time itself. Above, the river glimmers faintly with light, and the cycle begins again. Movement, reflection, rest. What once was carved by hands is now held by water, and what was once worshipped is now at peace. The centuries drift by like currents, but the meaning endures. All things shaped by hand and time return to quiet. They belong to the slow language of the earth, where stone remembers and silence keeps watch, top of form, bottom of form. Night deepens again. The last traces of light fade into the folds of silence. Across centuries and landscapes, the same hush returns, from the firelit taverns to the pale stones of the desert, from the misted terraces to the quiet riverbed. The rhythm never changes. It moves slowly, softly, without end. Each place, each life, carries the same truth. That stillness endures where noise fades, and warmth lingers where hands once worked. The tavern keeper's quiet care, the sculptor's patient curve of stone, the farmer's rhythm of planting, the river's endless flow, all are parts of the same gentle persistence. Every age finds its calm, every soul finds a breath of warmth. What remains is not the grandeur of empires, but the small acts of endurance. Bread shared, water lifted, time observed. They belong to a lineage of quiet living, a memory the earth keeps in its slow, patient way. Now, as night closes over the world once more, you can feel that same stillness moving through you, a soft echo of everything that came before. The noise of time falls away, and what is left is peace, endless, gentle, and kind. The river still moves, the mountains still breathe. The world holds its quiet, and you too are part of it, resting, breathing, becoming still.